Welcome to Sky Notes. This week, Tracy and Lillian celebrate the solar new year. It's spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, and that means the sun starts fresh at the beginning of the zodiac. The equinox chart gives us insights into not only the season, but the year ahead. So join us while we check our Sky Notes. Welcome to Sky Notes. Today, we are talking about the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere, fall equinox down south. And this is the thing that people don't necessarily know. This is a new year. This is the sun will enter 0 degrees Aries.
That's right.
And it's a new solar year. So in Asian countries, they celebrate the Lunar New Year. And this is the solar new year, right?
Beautiful. Really well explained. I don't think I'd ever kind of grasped it that quickly. I like that.
Oh, good. It took me years to figure that out. So
you said it really effectively. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's funny because in writing the horoscopes for Llewellyn, I'd put a New Year thing for like people's birthday months or for the Aries ingress, and they said people won't understand the reference, so leave it out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help people understand that Aries, 0 degrees, March 20th or so. It's a new solar year. We start over.
Yeah.
This, to me, the Aries ingress in March, there is just this newness that it feels fresh. And I think that's likely why in this hemisphere, spring feels exciting to people.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Although I will say, I live in the South now and it gets warmer earlier. But we had a cold snap, pardon me, and all the birds came out with babies. And it was the first time I realized, like, that's not just a human thing to cohabitate in the winter and accidentally end up a parent. And it kind of messed up my head about spring, right? Because spring is new and kids and growth, but it can happen anytime, right? It's not constrained to that. But what I do see in this period in the South is collaboration. The birds are collaborating. So they're building nests and they're checking out homes and that kind of thing. So,
and I love that idea. It's mixed blessings up in this far, far north place because we put so much crap on our roads so that we can drive. That to me, it's one of my least favorite seasons of the year because it's messy and dirty and gross.
Now, I've heard that before, not necessarily just about Canada, but anywhere where there aren't roads that are built, there's a season after the snow that is just arduous.
And I think that speaks really beautifully to the continuation of the cycles, right?
Because I love that.
There's a piece of spring that's about cleaning up what's rotted and decayed that we didn't get to before. It's not, we don't start with a totally clean slate usually. There's some cleanup that still needs to get done. So that clean break is like, no, we weren't going to keep going, but we're going to clean up a lot of the crap so that the new stuff can come through.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the sort of better uses I find for Aries is kind of breaking up stuck chi. I mean, you and I haven't talked about it directly, but I would attribute your feeling success in part to your strong Aries placements, because you can't be, what does my piano teacher say when I'm hesitating? She says, if you're a diver, you're never going to start a dive and go, hold on a minute. And I think that Aries energy is really necessary because you're going to see it through and you're not going to hesitate.
Yeah, it's interesting because it definitely, Aries energy gives a fighting spirit, absolutely, to anything that it contributes to. Where it falls short is its lack of patience.
Yes.
So there can be, if there isn't something else, if we're going to talk about it like in a natal chart, if somebody doesn't have something in their chart that helps with that tenacity, some fixity that helps, the Aries energy can just give up too fast.
Bounce around.
Absolutely. Let's bridge over to the equinox chart.
Let's do it.
All right. So this is, when we talk about balance in a chart, it ain't this.
It's not balance.
So the equinox is at 10:45 a.m. Eastern time on Friday, March 20th, 2026. So that is the chart that's up. This is set for Ottawa, Canada, but Washington, D.C. is very, very similar chart. And the first thing that anybody's going to notice if they're actually looking at this chart is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 planets and Chiron all in Aries.
Yeah.
All sitting in the 11th house of this chart. We also only have planets between the signs of Aquarius and Cancer. So it isn't even a full 100 or 180 degrees represented in the chart. So you a lot of intensity focused in one place in this particular chart. It is in Aries. And the other thing I want to point out is that in the Placidus house system, and I think in Koch as well, the Aries sign is intercepted. It does not have a house to play in. It doesn't have a place. So when you have an intercepted sign, that means that there is no place for that energy to make itself felt. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. Laura used to describe it. Laura Nalbandian would say, you're trying to find the way out of a closet that's inside of a storeroom and the lights are off and you're looking for a doorknob. And that could take a really long time to find.
Oh, I like that description. I always just, as a simple, just because we always default to the actors and the stage and the costumes metaphor for astrology,
I like
right?
that. Yeah.
The costumes being the sign.
That's right.
The planets being the actors and the houses being the stage. It's like you've written this gorgeous script and you've got no place to perform it.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's and so it in a natal chart, it just means that there's lessons around the sign that a person needs to learn through their life, or that's going to be a focus of learning in their life. And now this, when we're looking at a chart like this, we're looking at more mundane astrology. So the astrology of, countries and events that are, political or things like that. And I was pretty sure that it was similar in terms of how it would play out in a mundane chart. So in something like this, it's whatever that what's the word that I want? Job of the house, or the territory of the house that it's happening in. That sign has a bunch of activity and it can't actually play out in the house that it's happening in. And also you mentioned, what did you say about the interception?
I was saying the piece about you're looking for the way out, but it's sort of more than one set of like deterrents.
Right. But you had said something when we talked originally about secrets.
Oh, yeah, that was when you talk about the contents, right? So that was the Saturn conjunct Neptune conjunct the Sun.
Yes. So speak to that, and then I'll tie that into the interception, because I think that I like that. So you talk a little bit more about the Sun with
I was thinking about it because we've been discussing like time blindness and whether or not that's a Saturn and Pisces thing. And then here we are with this Saturn Neptune conjunction that just goes on and on and on. And it's kind of given the same vibe of that. And it just occurred to me today, and I don't know why, but I thought, a secret government, secret organization. Like we talked also about, the tendency my experience after a Mercury retrograde is that if I have any notion of things being secret or hidden that agitate me, I guess, because that's the only thing I pay attention to, after the Mercury goes direct, it's almost inevitable that I will hear what I thought was missing. And maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't, right? But I will get that information and I'll go, okay, that's what's going on. And over time, that kind of builds this sense of like, don't get caught up in what happens in these periods, because you're going to have to wait and be patient. And that's all over this chart. So the fact that it's secret and we're not hearing stuff, that was the piece about it also connecting to the Sun, where you make your plan to connect. And of course, the 11th house is also society, right? So it's relevant.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so if you can't see this, the Sun is at 0, Neptune is at 1, Saturn is at 4. Okay. So if we even just look at this unraveling right away, as you know, as the sun moves out of this, it's going to have a conversation with Neptune first, and then it's going to have to talk to Saturn. And how we can see something like that play out is that the sun, well, okay, so the sun in Aries is exalted, and it feels pretty privileged,
Entitled, confident,
entitled.
confident.
It loves, that Aries battle energy. It's comfortable with that. So when it comes to Neptune, that could be secrets, that could be, hiding the truth for sure, but it can also be idealized.
Yes.
Right? Delusional.
Yes.
Right? And
extreme.
So the way I read this, extreme. So when I first read this, what I kind of saw in my head was, okay, so the sun is going to go to Neptune. It's going to have all these big ideas that are absolutely delusional and ridiculous. And then right away it has to talk to Saturn.
Yeah.
And Saturn's going to be the reality check of no.
And impatient with the feedback.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, for sure. And it's like the sun's going to go have a conversation with Neptune saying, oh, the sky's the limit. Do whatever you want. Life, do it. Go. This is going to be fantastic. Nothing could go wrong. And then it goes, Saturn's like, fuck off. No.
When we get to the Sabian symbols, we'll have some stuff to add to that. But you are 100% right. This is a bomb set to go off 20 different ways and 20 different times. In the ideal world, it could be a fun Aryan bomb. We all figure out all this crazy cool stuff we could do, and then we ground it in reality, and then whatever is useful sticks around, right? And we move into our system.
For sure. I mean, if you're approaching the Neptune piece of this, like as individuals, if we're approaching the Neptune piece of this from a more positive, enlightened, point of view, I don't know how else to frame that.
Yeah.
But not from a selfish, self-serving place, right? That conjunction can be enlightening and bring you inspiration, and it can be wonderful. That's where my sound tools come in. It's a beautiful energy.
Yeah.
And then once the sun moves on and meets Saturn, you get practical application. And how can we use this in a real way, in a practical way, in a grounded way?
Yeah.
So that's how that can positively play out. But if you have anything that's ego-driven, maniacal, not naming names, but you know what I'm talking about.
I'm right here, Tracy.
Being told by Neptune, no limits, you can have it all, do what you want.
Right.
Saturn's not going to be fun. Saturn is going to be, no, here's the reality, here's the consequences, and here are the legislations, perhaps, because the 11th house is government, And when I saw all of this Aries stuff intercepted in the house of government, to me right away, I thought, okay, so this is organizations stopping other organizations from doing things and using whatever they have at their disposal to take care of that, so this can look like the president trying to do things in Congress or whoever going, no, you don't get to do that. Right.
Do you think it also could contribute to like the snarky social messages from like the White House and then the Iranian response? Like I've never seen people like, I fart on your grandmother, apart from Monty Python. I've never seen that tactic,
Yeah. It's almost like the world has lost its filter, right?
I like that.
The person who the pedestal of which was supposed to be the highest in the world is not a great representation of humanity. And therefore everybody's like, oh, take the gloves off.
Yeah.
We just get to say whatever the hell comes into our brain without any kind of thought or decorum.
Right. And then there's this whiplash, that we're kind of describing when we talk about the Neptune and Saturn, which also happens on a larger scale with how Jupiter and Saturn interact, where there's this nice open part where we learn a lot, and then Saturn's going to ask us to apply it. And that's not easy. And I don't know how good we've been at that lately, because there's so much. I know in the USA, you are required to be a consumer, or if you could, I haven't gotten a note that says self-deport yet, but I have heard that they don't like women anymore. and that we're out of all of the, I don't know what you would call, government roles. So anyway, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to say is that this is different. Saturn in Aries is going to feel a lot different than when we had the same thing happen when the sun went from um, Neptune in Pisces to
Right.
Saturn in Pisces, because Saturn in Pisces can be a bit ineffectual
Yes.
on a grand scale.
Right.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and quite different from person to person, because it's Pisces. It's the most mutable sign that there is. So
And success is irrelevant.
Right.
Personal.
That's
You're
true.
going to have an experience.
Right. Saturn in Aries is in fall, and that's a powerful place for Saturn to be.
Yeah.
And not in a kind of a helpful way,
Right.
generally, you
Yeah.
know. So the other side of the Neptune conjunction is far more punishing with
Yeah.
Saturn in Aries than it ever was going to be with Saturn in Pisces.
Fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, part of me is like, well, good, because I think
Yeah.
we kind of need the tough discipline in some areas
Sure.
right now. The tough hand of discipline. But on an individual level, going from that Neptune and Aries to the Saturn might feel like a slap across the face before you can see the gifts that it's going to show you.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
I think there's no question we're going to need to be patient through these next couple of months, like just as a regular practice.
yeah.
And compassionate with ourselves if that doesn't work out.
Yeah. And overall, just because of this Neptune, Saturn's going to still be hungover from hanging out with Neptune for so long. Just being realistic with your expectations is only going to help you or help me or help, us as individuals.
Of course.
Yeah. Stay as real as possible.
Yeah.
And that'll save your sanity.
What is it? Cut wood, chop wood, carry water. Before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. Go plant stuff. If you've got something you want to help people out with, that's a great place to put that energy. If you're creative, right now is a fantastic place. And, as a creative person, I often give myself permission to explore things I would never share with other people and then destroy it. So there's, the space that maybe you can't get with someone else that you could now provide yourself with. And I know it's not with Aries. I mean, the very first image I got was like, have you seen those chainsaw sculptures up in the mountains and stuff? I get that vibe, right? Like it's 20 guys trying to figure out how to mold steel together or something. It's not, it's not a shower. It's not a spa.
No. No, it's not.
You may lose a nail.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing to point out too is that this is a new moon. So that's the other added layer of freshness. So the moon is at 20 degrees Aries next to Venus. But really the only other conversation it's going to have before it leaves Aries is to Chiron. So it's kind of done its job in Chiron at this point. So the moon is a bit quieter in this chart, even as a new moon than it normally would be. And again, it's intercepted or in an intercepted sign. So that makes it a bit quieter too. But it also feels like this for people on a personal level, is a recipe for a lot of anybody who has anxiety that they work with. This is going to churn that up, I feel like, with that Aries energy not having a place to go. And so some of the ways to work with that is to be a little bit more physical, like get your blood rate up in a way that's good for you, that makes you feel good about it. Maybe just sort of like break it up so it's not just a concentrated ball inside of us, because that can happen too, for sure, with this kind of intensity. And to add to that sentiment, when we have a situation where all the planets are in the same sign, you want to look to the ruling planet, because that's really where all the pressure is going to go. Those planets don't have a place to do their Aries thing. So Mars is the one that's going to get depended on. It's in Pisces. Mars in Pisces. Well, I mean, at its strongest in terms of like Mars's aggression and action and doing all those things, it's going to be more this ideological action. And when to be honest, the very first thing I noticed right away with all the things I'm talking about is how everything that's happening in Iran is
Yeah.
being painted as a holy war on the
Right.
US side, right?
Right.
And that, to me, that all spells like Mars and Pisces.
Yeah. Tremendous amount of pressure to reach an ideal, for sure, but also running in jello, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But that idealism, I absolutely see that. And it just crossed the North Node. So,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
scooped up some information, and maybe that's not the whole picture,
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Well, and let's talk about it is trine Jupiter in Cancer,
Right.
another exalted planet,
Yep.
which is in charge of all the ideology,
Exactly.
feeling extremely entitled in all of
Yep.
its ideas and opinions. So that's I mean, when you have a trine, it's supposed to be a good aspect, but really all it is ease. So
Right.
what's happening is you have Mars and Jupiter having a very intimate conversation about everybody's ideologies and being able to do everything they want to do quite easily
Yeah.
when it comes to each other. So that's another kind of reinforcement about that Mars being quite idealistic, and that we're going to hear a lot more about the holy war side of it. I
Right.
think with Mercury and Pisces on the North Node, that's the rhetoric that's just going to amp up. I
That's so well
feel.
put, because it is the illusion. And this season seems to be rampant with illusion. Not
For
in a, not, it's not a warning. Everything is always illusion, but you got to pick your parameters, what you're going to operate with. So
Yeah.
that will be especially important.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And the other thing too, so this is on a personal level, Mercury is stationed in this chart. So it actually hasn't gone technically direct yet.
Right.
And it's sitting right on that North Node, very close within, half a degree.
Yeah.
And it's ruling the ascendant of the chart. So so there's a lot of pressure on that Mercury. So it'll be interesting to see what happens globally messaging, because the North Node amplifies the message, right? But can't control it. So that'll be really fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
But personally, keep that in mind. Any kind of messaging that we're trying to do on a personal level, any conversations that we want to have, this signature is a whole season, or a year eventually.
Exactly. Yeah.
So making sure, because you're not going to get to really control your narrative as well as you would like.
Yeah,
right.
That's really good point.
Yeah.
Well, and to touch on the nodes, so we've got I think another month of 8 degrees, 54 minutes Virgo for the South Node, which we've discussed before, which the nodes are the nodes of the moon. It's where the orbit meets the ecliptic. We've got information on that we can put up, but the piece of that is it describes an act, or folks have made that a divinatory process, and so we like to look at them. So 9 degrees of Virgo is an expressionistic painter painting the past. And I went to look at Linda Hill's site because I love her version of the Sabian symbols. And she does an application to where something is sitting. So the expressionistic painter painting the past, I think, is gorgeous, right? We're all thinking about, hey, who's going to control history? Who's going to present it? And what should it be? So I get that. And I love it because I want off-gassing for creativity, right? And then the North Node, 9 degrees Pisces, is an aviator in the clouds rising above to get a better perspective. And so that's what's conjunct that North Node. There's still the warning about the idealization, like, oh my God, I see the favorite thing. I would probably mention some kind of clown store to people, and maybe they're not interested in that. So it suggests also that it creates a focus, and that because we have to be in charge of this, plane, we are in control. And so this North Node is asking us to step into control, but to consider the view and to consider getting a broader view. And there's a need for accuracy, a desire for accuracy. And I think it's speaking to that danger, that if we let ourselves indulge in too much aggression and idealization, there will be consequences for it, whether we see them now or down the line. So I love those both because it's like, okay, let me try that. I get stuck. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. Well, and so the other thing to point out, I love that, like, so when I look at the Sabian symbols, if there is a theme in the description of the symbol that actually fits the body and the degree, there's extra weight there. So in this particular case, the past is key to that description, because the South Node, there is that connection to our past, however many lives we even want to be talking about. And so that part, that looking to the past, that piece of that description is so much more, has so much more weight.
I
When
agree.
we're talking about it on the South Node, you know, like it's kind of beautiful and amazing.
Well,
And
that's what I mean. You know, we're also given tools that we can explore, and we're also given challenges, you know, that come for us because we move as a unit, you know, humans.
Then on the north side, because you talked about that elevated piece, the fact that Mercury and the North Node together are kind of like as elevated as Pluto, that whole thing creates this interesting Y configuration, and they're kind of splitting the highest point to the midheaven. So it is one of the highest points in the chart. So, you know, again, it's adding that extra weight to that imagery and that messaging about being up there and elevation
and I forgot to say the future, right? Like if we're talking about the past back here, it's saying, hey guys, we don't have the information we need. Can you get a little more objective? It may take time. You need to stay focused. There are consequences for not staying focused, and Godspeed.
Yes. And be precise. And if you need inspiration, look to the past to inform you.
And then because we are relying on that to develop our future, and we want everyone to bring their future, you know, who knows how it turns out, but that's the alchemy. That's our process.
Right. And you know, I looked at the equinox chart and thought I couldn't have made a more perfect chart for the moment we're in. Right. Like it's charts like this, it's moments like this when I'm just like, the poetry of astrology is never going to cease blowing my mind.
Same.
But when you see it in the chart so clearly, it's wild to me for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I still think about those lace makers, you know, how crazy skilled they are, right? And figuring out how to make these complicated patterns. And that is exactly what we're doing with these concepts that describe different kinds of tensions and origins and refer through millennia. You know, people have been talking about this for millennia. So it's just the longest, you know, possibly telephone line game, which is not fun, but it's also revelatory and helpful in a way to connect with our ancestors.
So where is this in your chart, in your natal chart? Where does all this Aries stuff happen for you?
In the 5th and 6th house, I have, pardon me, I think I have Palace at 5 Aries or something like that. And then nothing else really.
Okay. I'm just curious because, you know, for people who want to know how this directly impacts them, you know, you want to look to see where Aries sits in your chart. And what I was going to say is even like this discussing like the messaging and the feeling like stuff isn't landing and all the stuff that we said, I'm already feeling that. And I have Aries intercepted in my first house. So all of this is sitting right in this is my lived experience natally. But I'll tell you that one of the things that I'm struggling with and working really hard on right now is personal messaging in my business.
Yeah.
You know, and so and really on a energetic level, feeling that it not landing where I want it to land or how I want it to land, you know, and also not having a clear intuition on how to shift that. And I feel like that is it's the astrology that's like
it's right there. It's right there. And I would argue that that is all totally reasonable.
Well, and so what I wanted to share though is when you've got Neptune, you know, so it's such a big part of the story has been for a while now. The message is always you have to have faith. Faith is the biggest cure to a Neptune problem.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, have faith and let it play out. you know.
I love that you say that, because I've had images as we've been talking of lighting candles in a church, of those kind of soft rituals that we do to bring comfort to ourselves. I confirm that my palace is 1 degree of Aries in the 5th house, no matter where you slice it, and it's alone in Placidus. So that's kind of gorgeous. But to your point, ooh, I can get on a high horse. Ooh, I've been on horses, and horses.
I love that.
I'm trying with the fire horse stuff. I'm so sorry. With the fire horse stuff and with the difficulties now, my clear feeling is it's an apocalypse for dust. And anything I can do to rid my home of any morsel of old attachments, thought forms, mistaken ideas, consequences. I want to be as gentle and thorough as I can to get them the hex out, and as quickly as possible make as much art as I can. And I feel like we're all kind of being called to that like, what is our body connection? How are we going to align ourselves, and what are we going to stay focused on? But I don't have a topic. I don't get a clear sense of a topic because there's billions of us. They're all so different. Like, we're all from different earth schools.
Yeah. And I feel like the only way through is by making sure that you're grounding, right? And also hydrating, because we've got some water, right? But with this much fire and this intense kind of fire, I don't think you can actually get enough earth and water at this point, to kind of balance it out, right?
Yeah.
And then also, so this is the thing that I'm noticing for myself and with people I'm surrounded with who have a lot of air in their chart. What happens is that much fire is really stimulating.
Yeah.
Right. But without sort of the logical air piece to help process it. Right. So there's a lot of anxious tension with people who are really airy, is what I noticed. And so again, grounding, but I mean, it can be as simple as just turning a fan on, like something just to increase the airflow around you.
Right.
Really
moving can be as simple as listening to your favorite playlist, right?
Yes.
So whatever it is, it's okay if it's small. It's really okay. Yeah. And if you're enjoying it, enjoy it. Wow, what a time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just with this much Aries, pick things that you can commit to, because the energy is not there to really help with it.
Yeah.
So unless it's something that you already can see a long-term relationship with, whether it's something that you're working on or with somebody you're hanging out with, whatever that looks like,
Interesting.
Something that you can actually see some kind of a future with, I think is really important, because the astrology is not there for the tenacity, right? For anything that's kind of coming up through all this Aries energy to have legs and move forward, So it's going to be up to us as individuals to sort of ground our own thing and move it forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
A lot of Aries energy can just be a lot of starting and nothing ever really developing into anything, if it doesn't have something to get its teeth on. Yeah. So whatever house this is in for people, there just could be a lot of activity that stirs up that doesn't turn into anything at all.
Right.
So, if that's
the clearing out would be perfect.
Yeah. Let it go. Right.
And even if just to be absolutely crystal clear, even if you decide to do it, get a little far and stop. Perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the trick. That is the trick with, what's the word that I want? With Aries energy is allow short spurts.
Yes.
Like the thing I love about fire energy, and it's most obvious in Aries, is that there needs to be that inspiration for it to, it's that spark, right? And so every time that gets kicked up again, use it, and then be okay with it's like a very sporadic energy that's
I think that's really helpful, and it would explain a lot. Like when you said, and I can still see the chart, but I actually want to talk about something.
Oh, sure.
Which is air signs are not necessarily going to want to hear that the way you get through this is faith. Right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of not their bag, right? And so it's not saying, make up stories to drag you away from practicality. It's saying allow creativity to be a part of it and watch for your idealism. Right? That these are ways you can flag something that's more about the time we're in than about your personal process.
Right. Yes. And also, one of the things that's extremely effective for air signs is mantras. Like,
mantra.
so,
Nice.
yeah. Like words
Yeah.
to bring in whatever the energy is that you're trying to get. So if it is faith, it's reminding yourself you are where you're meant to be.
I love
You're
that.
going the direction that is exactly perfect for you, and you're safe.
Yeah.
So it's developing whatever the words of encouragement or words of whatever it is that the air sign needs to kind of put that on repeat whenever the anxiety starts to kick up a little bit too high.
Yeah.
Is very powerful. Like I often air moons and air mercuries, I'll recommend mantra work for sure, because trying to get them to quiet their minds down is like torture. So why?
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. So let's do something that actually works,
or
right?
to like go make up a story, a fairy tale about how things could be would be infuriating, right? Whereas for folks who are Neptune informed, that is a critical part of the process, is to access all of the material.
Yeah, for sure. This is a wild chart. So now the upswing to the fact that it is Aries is that, as I understand it, if you're looking at any kind of a solar return chart, if it's a majority of cardinal energy, it does not have the staying power for that whole year, right? It's going to be this is much more a seasonal chart than it is an annual. If this was all fixed energy, it would be a little bit different. But it's not. It's Aries. So I feel like, and tell me what you think, this is like a short, really intense burst that then
yeah. I mean, I haven't scoped out the year to see whether or not it calms down. Do you know what I mean? Because I enjoy all of the ins and outs of it. But this one feels quite tricky, which is why I think we're still talking about it. It feels as though you could like there's a bomb somewhere, you know what I mean? But it's, I don't know, a love bomb if you do it right. Because it looks like a party chart. You know what I mean? If this was somebody's, I mean, I can bear with the Gemini ascendant is charming, right?
Right.
And then you got all the Pisces at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
Say whatever I think you want to hear.
Right. Can I describe to you the kind of party that this is in my mind?
Let's hear that party.
Okay. So I don't disagree. I don't. But when I see this much Aries and this much Neptune and Pisces energy, this is a meth-fueled country party, pickup truck on the tailgate party. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
This is the meth-fueled tailgate party where people are bringing their rocket launchers to try. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of just like
it just keeps
crazed party energy. And
I can't remember the
stories to tell.
Yeah,
for sure. But there might be some casualties.
Yeah, there used to be this organization that made art in San Francisco. I can't remember the name of it, but the art they made was giant machines that would tear each other up.
Wow.
So, I mean, everything they were working on was dangerous. You know, if you're not a machinist and you don't have that kind of mindset, you should probably stay away from those tools.
Yeah.
That made me think about that when you said it.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in some places where those are we can't have those kinds of weapons in Canada.
I have seen that. But, the M80s down here in the States, you know, the folks who have lots of properties so they can blow stuff up. Yeah.
And I mean, those parties like where, you see there's two guys smoking pot in the corner and everybody else did something far more stimulating and it's chaos.
Or like a house party where you keep going to the different rooms and the rooms are sketchier than the last.
Right.
Where you
Yes.
agree ahead of time, you're going to leave whenever you feel like it.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's just that kind of game.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. So I agree it's a party, but it's not, it's gonna be light on conversation. It's gonna
Yeah.
be leaning in a different direction.
Woo, that is so funny. I love that.
Yes. So the equinox is going to be eventful. The chart shows eventfulness.
I see that.
And I feel like we might be tired when we come out the other side of this because it is a huge expenditure of energy.
So let's talk a bit about it as a ritual, as one of
Sure.
the cross-quarter rituals.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's a time of balance, right?
Right.
And we're connecting with that new energy, whether it's the almost nascent energy of a plant that will need to be protected and then grow into its fullness in the summer. And I feel not balanced whatsoever at all, anywhere at all. So I can't tell if it's like that gentle motion thing, like as a person who's going to be doing a ritual about this balance, I'm thinking out loud here, there's no balance. So what do we do if there's no balance? There's a lot of lift, right? So in our imaginations, we lift, but we make sure we know that we have to come back down. And one of the difficult things when you do these kind of rituals is working with the energy, right? That hypes everything up and then making sure to let go of all of that energy. So I think I might spend longer on letting go of the energy.
Well, like that.
Right. And then there's a way you can talk about spring where you can talk about, like the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. And then you say, oops, the whole body disappears during the chrysalis process. That must freak that little caterpillar out. You go in and there go your antennae, the little whatever philia or whatever they've got poking off of them. Their legs are gone. It's just one last goopy bloop. And then they're stuck inside this too small container. And then every moment that they're coming out is like an eon. It's Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, the first one where she's trying to move her toe after waking up after a coma. It takes forever. Forever. So I think about that, right?
Right.
And then I think, balance, like perfection is momentary, right? And so if there are moments, a friend of mine I spoke to is going to a wedding this Saturday, and the wedding is a ritual, right? A ritual of union and of spring and of new love. And I love that exists. So celebrate it where it exists, where there is balance. But yeah, this is the most imbalanced equinox I think I've been a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so here's the good news. Venus goes into Taurus at the end of March. So within like 10 days of this, we get Venus going into an earth sign in a place that she's very happy, and so that we are going to get grounding pretty soon after this. And I feel like that's another reason why this really intense Aries energy is not going to last as long as it could. Because Venus is going to go into Taurus. And then so every time the moon goes through an earth sign, that's going to get, uplifted and it's going to make nice relationships with Jupiter and Cancer. So we do have some stabilizing and positive stuff that is going to kick in right very shortly after this. So that makes me happy. And I mean, God bless Mercury and Venus for always being with the sun, because as it moves away, right, all of that energy is going to move across the zodiac. And we're not going to get this intensity sitting over just on one side.
Yeah.
So it's going to lighten up, but it feels like like quite literally a flashpoint, because Aries to me is that spark. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. This feels like that flashpoint that shifts things, I forgot this note that I had made. So the sun in a mundane chart represents the leader.
Yeah.
And so to have it, the sun in Aries in the 11th house of government and being intercepted, it can show that the leader is pushing against institutional limits.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is like so wildly accurate.
And the perfection thing you were talking about before, it perfects by going through Neptune first, and the sky's the limit, and then hits that Saturn.
Yeah.
Well, consequences.
Also, but don't you like if you think about the leader not pushing against it, it feels like, okay, now I'm going to lie the hell off and tell you a whole bunch of crap that's not true to get you to be on my side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And perhaps think the leader's thinking that they've actually sold it,
Right.
but then all of a sudden, no,
Yeah. Consequences.
and I could see it being actually like legislation, like literally legislation.
That's
That
so
comes in to go,
fascinating.
no.
I mean, it's a
No.
larger discussion, but this really does feel like governmental stuff, like
Oh, for sure.
worldwide. We are trying to
For sure.
figure out who's doing what and have
Right.
the rules really changed? Or, I mean, we know that
Yeah.
there's one country just, you know,
With friends just doing this, like they're not alone in their
they're not
ridiculousness,
alone.
for
They're not
sure.
alone. Yeah.
You know, but when I see a chart like this, I feel like there are all the leaders involved are coming up against this
Limitations.
kind of a roadblock and selling a bill of goods to the people they
Yeah.
report to.
Yeah.
Right. I think that
agree.
that's not just one country. I think
No.
that anybody who's sort of on the one side of this fight is sort of in this place, you know?
Yeah.
And especially, I'm going to say any government who's trying to bamboozle its people.
Yeah. You could say
Right?
that.
Yeah.
So let's say the Duterte, you know,
Sure.
organization. He's in The Hague. He's in jail. Good
Yeah.
answer.
Mhm.
What's his name? Bolsonaro, you know, pissed off his people. He's in jail. Good
Yeah.
answer. Maybe the countries that aren't attending to that should know that something's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And this at the time that we're in with those files that I keep hearing about, I feel like this is part of that consequence, the
Oh, yes, 100%.
FO kind of thing.
Yeah, a little
This is
bit.
the FO part of it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what develops over the next few weeks for sure.
It sure will.
But I do want to say that on March 24th is a big deal because we have so on that day, Mars, which is in charge of all that Aries stuff, is hitting what's considered a critical degree. So each modality has a different critical degree where they hit sort of a stress point. And when it's the mutable signs of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius, that 17 degrees is the critical degree.
Right.
So Mars is going to enter that on the 24th at the same time that the sun is having its little conversation with the Saturn. And that in itself is something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you know, for events to actually happen, the moon has to come in and kick it off. That's just how it works. And the moon is going to go into Cancer, which means it's going to square all that Aries energy.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing is that it's going to trine the Mars.
Good.
So I feel like difficult situation, but perhaps an amiable outcome.
Well, and I wonder too about that Venus. I was going to ask you about this because I don't remember what it's called. I don't know if there's a name for it when there's mutual reception by exaltation. And I'm not sure, right?
Like that's called. Yeah,
that's what it's called. Okay, good. So because we've talked about that Mars and Venus interacting and maybe the Venus kind of softening, even if she's in Aries, right? You know, that, you know, being brave enough to say, hey, stop that, you know, or whatever it is, maybe there's still some communication that's happening there that can facilitate it. Because it's just the Mars knowing what the community wants, right? And then Saturn describing what the rules are, right?
Right. Well, and so in mundane astrology, the moon is the people.
Right.
And so, so that's interesting because it could be, we could translate kind of directly that it's actually the people that spark whatever the next action is.
Right. Which is why we need to have a vision and clarity and focus and accuracy. And
for sure. Yeah.
Take your hands off the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. But so I mean, I don't feel like we're powerless in this.
No, not at all.
I think that was interesting about the moon coming along to do its thing, you know? But I think that energetically we might all be a little bit, you know, when your nerves are just frayed at the ends, it's a little bit like that right now.
Yeah.
And the equinox is going to intensify that, I think, a little bit.
I think so.
Well, I like your idea. I think that if people want to do some kind of ritual, just kind of asking for ease and gentleness.
Yeah.
You know, saying to Mars, I don't need it the hard way. Saying to Saturn,
That's right.
I don't need it the hard way. Let's
Yeah.
do this as gently as we can.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know,
of course not.
being direct about how you want to go through this time is helpful.
It's
for
worth
sure.
it. It's worth it. It's worth it to know. And even knowing gets you some grounding there. So,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes. So do you have anything else to say about equinox?
I'm good. I'm good with that.
Right.
I'm ready to celebrate it. We have an announcement that we are now on Spotify. And so if folks listen to us on Spotify, or if you listen to Spotify for your podcast, you can go there for us.
Check us out. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We got an email that we're in the top 100 astrology podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yay. So it's exciting. Well, thanks everybody. And thank you, Lillian.
Thank
and we
you,
will
Tracy.
see you next week on Sky Notes.